Guided by his visions, John takes Halsey and Cortana back to where it all began, looking for answers from his past. With Soren along for protection, Kwan goes in search of an army. Meanwhile, John's behavior inspires another Spartan to begin a journey of self-discovery, and Miranda discovers a possible link between the artifact and something much larger. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Campfire Gaming Podcast. My name is Rich and I will be your host for this week's episode. With me today, I've got the illustrious Matt.
Hey, what's happening?
Illustrious Heather. How you doing? How you both doing?
Oh my goodness, I'm illustrious now.
Yes.
Yep.
You're
ranked up.
Yep. You've participated in enough weeks of this podcast that you have gained the rank of illustrious podcaster.
Yep.
Achievement unlocked.
Achievement unlocked. Way to go.
We're
all
happy
proud of you.
Yeah, we're happy you continue to join us, so we upgraded you.
Well, thanks.
Yes. This is our review of the Halo TV series, Episode 4, Homecoming. Of course, as always, from week to week. Spoilers ahead, we will be talking about the entire episode in full, giving our thoughts and opinions, and eventually giving a score for the episode. For the episode, not for the show as a whole yet. But before we dive into that, be sure to go to our website, campfiregamingpodcast.com. Visit our Twitter at CampGamePod, and while you're there, be sure to join our Discord. There's a link to it on the website. We'd love to hear from you, get your feedback. Maybe you could talk about the show with us in our Discord. That's where we spend most of our time. And we'd love to hear from you. So, without further ado, let's dive into Episode 4, Homecoming. So, where to begin with this episode? Do we talk about the butts? Do we talk about what the pacing of the show? Like one of the things I feel like with this episode in particular is that it was very erratic. Like it was jumping from, from John to Kwan to John to Spartans to John to Kwan to Spartan. Like it was jumping all over the place, like super, super fast.
Yeah, it was just like a minute scene here and a minute scene there. And it was just, I thought it was kind of a little disjointed, the second time I watched through it, it was just like, oh, this is just so weird that we just keep jumping like this. And at times it didn't feel like, it felt like, okay, maybe you want to kind of jump from plot to plot a little bit, but at least tie a couple of these like 1 minute scenes together, make a 3 or 4 minute scene, then jump. But it was so erratic. It was crazy.
Right. So in this episode, we get the gist that John, they didn't really explain it as a whole, but you get a sneak peek into John's past and why he might be special. In terms of, was it last episode that they did the, why is he special? Because he's the Master Chief.
No, that was this one.
Was that this one?
I loved it. Vanek is one of the coolest guys in the Spartan from Silver Team.
Yes, he's awesome.
They were just talking. He's like, he's like, why is the Master Chief so special?
He's like, because he's the Master Chief.
Yeah.
And that's like I think that's something that everybody who is watching the show kind of resonates with. Is like, we want him to be cool because he's the Master Chief. Mm-hmm. So to recap a little bit, I suppose, John and Dr. Halsey are going to Aridinus 2. John realizes that that's where his childhood is, and that's where the Forerunner artifact is essentially showing him visions of. And so he believes that the other part of that Forerunner artifact is going to be on Aridinus 2, because that's where he saw it as a kid. And this is something, I guess let's just break it down by like plot, because like I said, this going through this bit by bit is going to be too erratic. So I think let's go and break through this just from one section of this episode at a time. So like, I want to start with the Master Chief stuff, because that, in my opinion, is the most important stuff.
That's
Not
why we're here.
Kwan Ha stuff, though. I mean, that's why I'm here. Really.
Yeah, I know. Everybody's truly here for Kwan Ha. And while I wish that plot line didn't exist at all, unfortunately it does. So we're going to have to talk about it. All right. So diving into this, we got a nice Halo moment. Is I guess what I would call it, is a really nice Halo moment. You have Master Chief shitting.
I mean, we got some more of his asses.
Yeah, Freudian slip. You have Master Chief sitting on the deck of a ship with Dr. Halsey and Dr. Creepy, and Cortana is talking to him while they're in slip space. And that was, like, to me, one of the most, like, Halo-y moments of the entire show, is that he's sitting on the deck, he's looking out at the slip space. Cortana starts talking to him about Aridness 2 and giving him, like, stats and, statistics and things like that, and just giving him general information. They're kind of talking back and forth about this whole thing. I don't know, what did you guys feel about that? I mean, I thought that was very, like, maybe it's just Jen Taylor's voice, but, like, that interaction that they have together really just is like, God, I wish this was the whole show. What are your thoughts?
I was waiting for Heather. So I'll jump in here. So, like, yeah, to your point, yeah, it really did feel a little bit more like a normal interaction with Chief and Cortana. Some of it was her kind of like techno babble that she does, like in the games, and then he's just like, whatever, whatever, how do we kill it? Now, that wasn't the situation here, but it did feel like a much more natural reaction. And I mean, half of it, to your point, is Jen Taylor. I mean, anytime she talks in this show, it's just like, okay, now we're getting into some Halo. And then we go to something else. It's like, okay, this isn't Halo anymore.
Mm-hmm. Heather, what are your thoughts?
Man, this is just like that last episode. I mean, I guess I agree. I don't have much on my thoughts here. Okay,
but that's fine. That's fine.
I'm not sure what it is that you want me to say that hasn't already been said, so I don't know that I can contribute a ton, if I'm being honest here.
Yeah, just getting your general opinion.
I mean, it doesn't feel
as
forced. It feels right.
And that makes sense, right? Like, from somebody who hasn't played a lot of the games, I mean, like, why would you get super nostalgic over stuff like this?
I guess my thing is that it's not so much as a thing to get nostalgic over. It's just more like, this is what I expect would happen in here. So I don't.
Sure.
I don't have much to add, because like you guys said, right? This is Halo, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, this is what I expect, even though we haven't maybe been getting that previously, but this is what I expect.
That's
focus
fair.
on this interaction and then build a show very similar to this, and then you'll be okay.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
So we end up on Aridness 2, and I mean, surprise, there isn't a whole lot going on there, as we heard from last episode that everybody pretty much got wiped out by a plague, right?
Yep.
Okay. So we find John's house. We find and last week we were getting visions of him, like, burying something. And so we find out what exactly he was burying, because Master Chief is playing Holes Simulator. So they go through and they tour the house. They go from the house to the backyard, I think, or they're driving somewhere. This is where we get that sort of one of the scenes that everybody's talking about, is that the Master Chief puts on his helmet, gets in the Warthog, drives the Warthog to get out, and then take off his helmet. So we're still trying to get more helmeted Master Chief, but it's becoming a real struggle.
It was so painful. It was just like, yeah, because they drop off at the planet. He puts his helmet on. And then I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. Now things are getting started. And literally 5 seconds later, they arrive to where his house is. Good thing they knew where it was. And he just takes it off, and then it's pretty much off. Well, I guess it's on and off this whole episode, right?
Yeah.
Because he has to put it on to see whenever Cortana is starting to put together what his house used to look like. He had to have his helmet on, and he was seeing, and she kind of generated, I guess, due to her connection to his brain or whatever, seeing kind of visions real time.
I thought she said that she could manifest them through the helmet.
Yeah.
That's why. Like, it's not his brain thing. It's like, I can control this electronic thing around you.
She pulled those memories out of his brain and then kind of AR'd it into his helmet, right? Augmented reality. Wasn't that kind of how it was?
No, she said that she could reconstruct it based off of the images. Because if you remember,
based off
like the back of the house, it's all deteriorated. And she said, I can't reconstruct this because there's too much damage.
Gotcha.
So like she's doing it simply by the things around it, not by his memories.
Yeah. So he's doing a virtual tour of his house, and Cortana is letting him essentially look at stuff so that they can kind of jog his memory. And then he starts to get his memory jogged when, he's looking over his younger self basically and looking at the drawings that he was making, and that's eventually what they end up finding in the I don't know if it's in the back of their house or a little bit further away, but they do dig up like a box. And I think Heather called it last week. Or she
Yeah.
called it at some point. Yeah, and she was just like, "Oh yeah, that's totally going to be like his drawings or something like that." And it was. So it was a whole bunch of drawings that John had made as a kid. Apparently, like, I guess I don't know if his like parents were really upset at the drawings. It wasn't super clear what they were why they decided to bury all of those drawings, but it looked like his dad was a bit freaked out by it.
Yeah, that's what I didn't get. Why wouldn't you just throw them in the trash, right?
Yeah, I don't know why you would
why are you
bury him.
Well,
putting them
no,
in a
I think the thing that they were showing is that he's like incessantly drawing these things, right? So because at one point where there's like he's having his vision, right? There's a whole wall of drawings, and his
Yeah.
mom is coming up to the drawings, and you can see it's all of these drawings of the artifact and stuff like that. And so at some point, like he's telling his mom, "Oh no, don't take that one," or something like that. Like I think it's more so that he's incessantly drawing these things, and that his parents are kind of like. I get the feeling that his dad's like seeing like this as a red flag, like all my kid does is sit here and draw these objects that don't make any sense, and he's doing them over and over and over again. It's like the plot of like every horror movie. Like you ever seen The Ring, where he's just like,
Right.
But like, why would you bury them and not just throw them away, right? What's the is there some sort of symbolism there, or some symbology?
Symbology.
Yeah, but like,
I mean, maybe it's just like because you throw away the drawings, right? Those drawings are gone, but you bury the drawings. Like I'm assuming that he buried more than just the drawings, though, right? Like we don't actually see it, but like there's no more talk about art.
Well, I thought
that
they pulled up the box and they opened the box and that's what's inside.
Yeah. But I'm saying like his art stuff, if you will, like the stuff he's using to draw. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
just
hard
to guess.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I mean, the only reason I can think that they buried it instead of just throwing it in the trash was so that they could write it into the story that he needs to go dig something up to look at his drawings. Like, I don't know.
He needs to recover the remainder of his drawings somehow, and they decided even though that they were freaked out, they decided not to throw them away.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? Like the drawings don't really hold a significance, right? Like the drawings end up jogging his memory a little bit, but other than that, it's not like he's like, and maybe this will come later, but it's not like he treasures these drawings or like they're like anything special. It's just literally he's holding on to the drawings, he's looking at them going, "Huh, this is what I made as a kid."
Yeah.
And then he has his visions, and then he looks at it, and then he ends up giving Halsey the picture that shows where the larger part of the artifact is.
Yeah. Though I gotta say though, it does seem really odd. Like why would this be the catalyst for him to jog these memories, is to dig up a box that has a drawing in it so that you can jog his memory, something that's already been happening with the Forerunner artifact.
Yeah.
Like it just seems like it's kind of like a very convoluted way to go and figure out that we need to go to a different place to find this other Forerunner artifact.
I think it was supposed to be Le Epic Twist. You thought you were coming for the artifact, but
it's the
drawings.
Yeah.
I
guess,
really
yeah. If you wanted to run the show out of time.
I honestly would have been surprised if it was the artifact and not some other shitty thing to try to get people excited to go, what is it?
Whoa, Matt. You're moving the story along too fast. We're going to have to camp here for another half episode, all right?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what happens, is that they spend the remainder of the episode on Aridna's 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like we said, it was, Master Chief kind of, he was playing what is his name? Stanley from Holes.
Yeah.
He was just, digging a bunch of holes in somewhere in what looks to be like a Michigan backyard or something like that.
The other thing that kind of bothers me from this, and you kind of like, this is kind of going back to like that helmet thing, is like this planet, right, has a plague that literally killed people.
Mhm.
And we know that there's vegetation on there, so conceivably there's still, some sort of life on there. Aren't they afraid of getting this plague again? Like, and
You're
wouldn't
thinking
Halsey
too
and Creepy
hard.
Man,
You're thinking too
but
hard
yeah,
for
but like,
the show.
wouldn't Halsey and Creepy Man suit up even if they manufactured said plague to kind of play this off? Like, if I'm the Master Chief, right, and I'm a super soldier, I also am smart enough to know that biological warfare is a thing,
Mhm.
and if that's a thing, then I would assume my suit would protect me from it. So why am I taking my helmet off all the time so I can dig holes and
Because it's
I
in
don't know.
Pablo's budget.
Maybe a
It's in the
crazy
contract.
maybe a crazy twist is coming. That it wasn't really some virus. It was, I don't know, the Covenant or something stupid, right?
Yeah, and that could be just a manufactured excuse. I
Or
mean,
I mean,
yeah,
they're kind of setting it up as like Halsey's behind this, whether they manufactured this plague and set it off,
or they just
or
straight up
whether it's
killed her parents. Killed his
exactly like
parents.
right, and then said it was a plague,
Yeah.
whatever.
It was a quote
Right.
accident.
Right. Like they're setting it up that like Halsey's behind it, but my thought is like if you know that there's a plague here and there's still vegetation around, then it's not that like hard to think that there's probably other things around as well.
Yeah.
Because vegetation doesn't just exist on its own without any other organisms.
Yeah. No, I mean that makes
So-
and that makes sense. I don't know why. Yeah, if you think that there is a plague on the planet, why would you not suit up
Protect
to
yourself?
protect
Yeah.
yourself from any plague? I mean, I guess if there's no hosts living on the planet anymore, then
Well,
maybe
that's
there
exactly my
doesn't have a
thing,
way to
right? Like
live, or
that's exactly my thing, right? Like vegetation doesn't live without other organisms. Like
Sure.
it's an ecosystem. It's not just plants on a place.
Yeah.
Like it's a whole ecosystem.
I agree with Matt. You're thinking about it too hard.
I
Yeah.
know.
But I mean, we can't put it past Halsey to do something in this manner to manufacture the story, because even in this episode, we get the reveal that, she was with John as he was young inside his house, and that kind of
Mhm.
takes Master Chief back a little bit. So now we're setting up for some more, I guess you could say, drama. We're setting up for more drama, that Master Chief got the reveal that Halsey knew about him before he was taken, or before he had left his parents. So he's
Mhm.
now questioning, he's rightly so questioning Dr. Halsey about why she was at his house. And, we see the kind of the infamous coin flipping scene from The Fall of Reach and all that.
Yep.
And
I'm not a big fan of where I think they're taking this, and this has been just 343 in general has been obsessed with this. Not saying she's the most perfect person in the world, but like they're trying. I think they're trying to build up the what will be some sort of big conflict between. I'm just going to generalize Silver Team and Halsey. I think there's going to be some sort of conflict there later in the season. It's going to change their relationship. I don't know if make it stronger or all of a sudden Halsey's like super enemy or something, but they definitely have this way of just painting her out to be this completely evil person in the games, and they're starting to do it here in the show. And it's weird. I'm not going to defend kidnapping kids and chemically and using technology to like make them forget their memories and their past and
indoctrinating them into military, military
saying-
mindset and all that.
Yeah. Not saying that, but like they have this habit of making her out to be the worst thing, the devil, right? Like worse than everything else going on, right?
Right.
They're vilifying her pretty
And I mean,
hard.
this kind of goes into that point I think that you made last week, Matt, is that like they're trying so hard to generate conflict between everybody working together in the UNSC, which is why it feels so like everybody's fighting all the time, with all the between the drama between Halsey and Miranda Keys, between Halsey and Parangoski, between Master Chief now and Halsey, between the Spartan team, Silver Team, and I guess eventually Halsey. It's just a lot of conflict, whereas, like on the Covenant side, everybody's pretty chill and gets along just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I guess we don't really know that, right? Because as far as we know, the Covenant barely exists.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, that's just a crazy thing, and I think that's what I commented on last week is we have all this crazy infighting with the UNSC and all this other dumb bullshit going on with Kwan. Like, one of the biggest things with Halo, again, if you don't read the books, the games are all about fighting aliens. And right now, I never thought I'd say this because I hate the whole idea of it, but I care more about Maquis and the Covenant story, and I hope they fucking annihilate the UNSC.
They just win.
Yeah, at this point, I want them to win. Who cares? They're the more interesting stories so far. You know, it's just insane.
Yeah,
See,
even
Matt,
if this is
they're not a threat, so we don't have to worry about that.
Right.
There's clearly no war going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the Silver timeline. There's not really much of a war.
Yeah. Which, I don't know. That makes no sense to me, you know. And again, this kind of goes back to where for some things I try to go back and pretend I don't know about Halo. Is like, nobody new watching this show that has never played a game or knows nothing about Halo, or just like, who are these weird alien people, and like, you know, who are the Covenant? Like, nobody knows.
Yeah, I was gonna say, to your point there, right? Like, it's not even clear that, like, as far as the show is being depicted, the real conflict is not between, you know, these super aliens and humans.
Yep.
Right. It's between humans and humans.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
and not even the insurrectionists. Even like, we barely see any, you know, UNSC involvement other than Vishner and his, you know, black trench coat wearing Matrix crew.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And we'll get to it a little more here, but it's crazy. It's like UNSC versus insurrection, and then apparently now I feel there's the rebels versus the insurrection. It's just and then obviously all the infighting we're talking about between the little, you know, people. And it's just like, it's crazy. Like, I just want to see, you know, John Halo shooting some aliens. Like, come on.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I mean, it seems like they might be setting up for that next week, but we'll have to see.
I think we might actually get the Arbiter sometime soon.
I hope so. That'd be
that like
cool.
a season 5 thing?
I mean, that the pace that this show is going, probably like a season 10 thing.
This really, I don't remember where I was reading it online, but it really kind of clicked with me. Is this really feels like a second or third season? Like, you should already know.
Like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so that was you. So it was Rich. Rich said it the other week, and you are correct. It's just, it's just off.
Yeah, it just feels like they haven't really established anything going on yet to really make you want to get invested into Master Chief, other than he's the Master Chief. Yep. So they're riding really high on the franchise itself to carry this drama along. When regularly, if this were just generic sci-fi show, we'd be kind of like, well, okay, who's this bitchy dude in green armor?
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
And to the other point of that, I think it was also brought up that you know, the same thing with Kwan Ha. Like, I have no like relationship with Kwan Ha. I don't really care what happens to her, right? But if they spent an entire season building up a rapport with me and figuring this out, you know, like, I might actually care. But as far as I know, she's, you know, the chick from the first episode that, don't worry, we decided not to kill, but then. And they set up like a rapport with her and Chief, and then just boop, yep, I see. I'll never see you again. You know, I'm gonna leave you with Soren, and Soren's gonna do what he wills with you. You know, like,
yeah.
It's to the same vein. It's pretty much almost every one of these stories is kind of like, I don't have this rapport with you, and if you're gonna have this, you know, I've never seen this series before. That's your audience, right? Like, I don't know anything about Halo,
and I think what we feel about Kwan Ha is normally what we would feel if Master Chief wasn't a character we already knew. Like, we already like the Master Chief because we've spent, you know, lots of time reading the books about Master Chief, playing the games as Master Chief. We already know this character, or so we think. We kind of have an understanding of what this character is and why we like him. Versus Kwan Ha, who's completely original to the series. We have had no interest, or we've had nothing to really get us engaged with the character, other than she's been kind of tailing Master Chief, and now she wants to kind of go be rebellious on a planet and do her own thing with somebody who's from like some, I don't know how involved Soren is in the book lore, but has like nothing to do with the games. So like,
He was just a small. He was in the short. We looked it up the other week. I think it was Halo Essentials. He was just it's a collection of short stories. He was just a short story. So we already have more of Soren than we probably did in that Halo universe so far.
Yeah.
But
And so it makes it really hard, at least for me, to care about a lot of this stuff moving forward. But we'll get into that, I think. We got to finish off the John Halo plot line.
yeah, there's we pretty much
The last-
summarized everything but the last bit of what happened.
like the last bit of what happened in the John plot line is that he ends up, retracing his steps. We talked about how he, sees Dr. Halsey as kind of like almost an enemy. There's a little bit more drama being built there. And then he goes and he finds the artifact. He retraces his steps as a kid. He finds the artifact that he touched and he realizes, yep, it's still here. It's a giant hole in the ground that leads directly to the Forerunner artifact. So they find it.
And it's where his story, at least this episode, ends off. But.
Right. And so then we get to, I'm going to talk about this B plot first because I don't care about the Kwan plot that much. Again, it's like, it's whatever. Yep. So the B plot on this one is more to do with what the outcome of what we saw when Kai witnessed John taking out his pellet from last week's episode. So I think
this part confused me the most. Like this plot is the most confusing thing to me.
Right. So something must have clicked inside of Kai's head when she witnessed that event, because we see that in this episode she's doing the exact same thing. She's we get like a half butt shot of her taking out the pellet out of her back as well. And then
I thought the pellet was already out.
Yeah, because it
shows like a Band-Aid over her back.
Oh, sure, yeah. But she took it out. We see like a half butt shot of her back, and that she tosses she's looking at the pellet, and she's kind of getting, she's getting feelings now. Like she's not so repressed anymore. So she ditches the pellet into the sink, and then she kind of like the whole rest of the episode is kind of in the same vein as John or as Master Chief was doing, is kind of discovering all of these emotions and things like that. She's behaving differently, and we see that through the remainder of the episode when she's engaging with the other Spartans, Miranda Keys. Go ahead.
What kind of threw me though with this, you could kind of hand wave it away with John because he touched the artifact, so maybe he was in a different mental state, maybe it affected him differently. But what I don't get is, hey, these Spartans, they even say it in the show, so this isn't some book thing, happened in the book as well, but they trained together, they grew up together, there's like no secrets between them. But in that scene where Raz, the other Spartan,
Riz.
we never list Riz. Yeah. Riz shows up and like Kai is kind of hiding the fact that it also like, I don't know how well she's hiding the fact that she just cut her back open and she's standing there butt ass naked. Either Riz is not very observant or she's just stupid. I don't know. But, like she's hiding, kind of like hides the fact that she took that pellet out, which is to me
not even that though. Like take a step back further. Like why does she decide, like why does she see Master Chief and then go, yeah, I should do that? Like I get the other feeling that like Kai and Vanek, like they would just report him to Halsey. Like like she sees this and is like, you know what, I'm gonna do that too. Because like the other thing is like not only did Chief touch the artifact, but he had this long heart to heart with Soren telling him like, once you remove the pellet, like you learn all these things. Like to her, that should be sacrilege, right?
Yeah. So it was just odd, and I don't know the thinking here. The thing I can be grateful of is I think one of my predictions is wrong. I thought there was going to be a love story, between Kai and Chief, but I don't think it's going to happen. So
you don't know
it
that
still
yet.
Could happen. She can feel emotions now.
Season 8, episode 6.
Well, I saw the teaser for the next episode, so I'm going to change my prediction to the fact that after we'll chat a little more here, but Kai had a little heart to heart with Miranda, that she's going to start kind of siding more with Miranda than Halsey and Silver team. So there's my I adjusted my prediction there. So, but yeah, it's just this what kind of threw me too, I guess it's maybe a little better emotional state than Chief, is at least Kai, when she started having these emotions, she was a little, I thought it was off and kind of dumb for the show, but she at least was happy and giddy. She didn't go all emo like Chief did, right?
Right. She seemed like genuinely like excited. She was much more willing to talk to people, especially when she was engaging with Miranda Keyes. She was being a lot more empathetic to Miranda's problems. Yeah, so in this episode, like, we have Miranda ropes in the Spartans for like a little test. She wants to see if they activate the artifact as well. Shocker, they don't. But they go and they talk, and they go into a lab, and they're kind of talking with Miranda Keyes, and I don't know, like, it's not really a heart to heart, but you get the impression that Miranda Keyes, is basically feeling jealous of the Spartans because they got all of her mom's attention, and it was kind of a whiny, like, I felt like this was a really like whiny and childish reason to be all mad at the Spartans, to be like, well, you guys took all my mom's time away from me.
Remember, she was like 14, so she's still angsty.
Yeah. Is she really? Is she 14?
No, I don't know.
No.
Oh, I was like,
just
what?
being
Like,
facetious.
Okay. Just because she looks really young.
Yeah, she looks like she's about as old as Kwan Ha, and
Right.
Kwan Ha is supposed to be a teenager.
Right. Yeah, so it's super, super weird. And it's like, it just seems really, to me at least, it seems really childish to be just this, I guess you could say, passive aggressive towards the Spartans. Like, she really just resents the Spartans because, they're her mom's science experiment, and, I guess she doesn't get that her mom was, getting prepped to save the entire human race, kind of a thing. And yeah, it's
again that underlying plot or writing that they're doing to try to make Halsey look like the worst person ever.
They really are going out of their way to make Halsey look like
again,
the devil.
Even in the books and in this show, she's kind of the same person in a sense, as I said, kidnapping kids, turning them into, indoctrinating them and turning them into super soldiers. Not the best person in the world, but compared to a lot of the other stuff going on in the world, it's kind of on par, especially on the military side. Plus, I mean, maybe the fact that they saved the entire galaxy is maybe worth it,
Right. At the end of the
day,
they
didn't do that yet in this show, so who knows?
Yeah, that's not till season 20, so we'll see. But yeah,
one of the things. So, hold on one second. So like one of the things though that surprised me, speaking of like trying to vilify Halsey and how Miranda is so like jealous of them, when they talk about when they, being Silver Team, talks about these pets that they were allowed to have, and then at the end you find out like Vanek had a pig that he never lost, and then we find that Halsey just euthanized his pet, and we're like, oh, what the heck? Like, she doesn't defend her mom's like, no, my mom would never do that. She's not appalled. She just kind of like sits there silent, like, okay. And it's I have this like moment of like, if you're so jealous, right, that these people took all of your mom's time, right, wouldn't you like not believe your mom would be capable of doing something like that? Or wouldn't you have like literally any reaction to something like that? Like, that's appalling stuff. Like, that's shocking stuff.
Right. Yeah. That she had like zero reaction to it, or didn't even really seem to care.
Yeah, but she cared that Halsey never spent any time with her.
Yeah, mommy didn't spend time with me, even though I look at mommy as like a completely evil person, and says that she doesn't like glitches, people acting like humans and things like that. But you guys are jerks for taking all of her time away from me.
Yeah, like I just don't understand it.
It's childish. It's childish and kind of stupid.
It's childish, stupid, and doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yep. But anyway,
I did want to say, I hope that Halsey didn't just like kill and throw away Vanek's pig. I hope they had a good bacon-filled dinner or breakfast or something.
Wow.
Hey, it's pretty good.
By the way, I love Vanek. He has such a small part in this episode, but anytime he talked, I'm like, this guy's badass.
I know.
We need more of him.
We need more Vanek. And I mean, he's more like, I think you said it while we were watching it, is that he's more Master Chief than Master Chief.
Yeah.
I love Vanek, man. He's one of my favorites. And he, like you said, he has like 3 lines.
Yep, Vanek and Soren. They're like the only two good characters in this show, in my opinion.
We'll get to Soren. I've
Yeah.
adjusted
Okay.
thoughts on
All
him,
right. All right.
but yeah,
He
but yeah.
downranked a little bit.
So yeah. I mean, to your point, to kind of continue with the plot here, you were saying like, yeah, they all touched the artifact, and then they got into a room where they're just chatting about. Again, it was cool to see all this stuff, but this was one of those kind of giddy moments that just felt a little out of place. Again, you'd think Kai would realize this would raise some suspicions, I would think, and then that glitch would be addressed. But she gets all giddy over a needler, which I don't know the exact dimensions. I don't have the Halo encyclopedia on me, but did those weapons seem a little bit bigger than they should have been?
That needler was absolutely massive.
Yeah.
In the games,
to be fair,
in the games, you're supposed to be able to dual wield those things.
Mm-hmm.
Like those things are like the size of like Master Chief's hands. Like that's how big that they normally are. Like it's like a tiny handheld pistol type weapon.
Yeah.
And the thing was like the size of her torso.
To be fair, though, like we've already seen problems with the sizing of the guns. I mean, look at the first episode with the assault rifle. That's literally like half the size of Kwan.
Yeah. Like the gun sizing seems really, really off.
And I wouldn't mind some of that to go, oh well, they're aliens, they're bigger, blah blah blah. Again, you can in the books and lore. I think the only thing that's gotten it right so far, we haven't seen a full one yet in this show. But was it Forward Unto Dawn? That was the yeah. That's I think the only visual Halo media that we got that really showed a hunter's kind of like true size, right? In the game, they're always kind of adjusted down. So to me, hey, Master Chief being able to dual wield them, hey, this is a video game. We just want you to have fun. I'm okay for, oh, this isn't the exact size, right? It's a video game, right? But like these seem like comically bigger,
huge, yeah. Just a massive needler.
Yeah. But the thing that also threw me about this is during this giddiness, she starts throwing out, I was almost saying Healy. I'm sure some of them were, but Covenant will say Covenant language, words for things. And this was one of the stupidest scenes in the show so far, because Miranda acted like she's the expert on alien whatever she said in I think episode 2 or 3, right? She's the expert, but Halsey gets the artifact. What the hell, right? She's the expert on this stuff, and she didn't know any of these words. She didn't know any of this language. It's all new to her. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Not only have you been fighting him for a while and probably have recorded video and audio from
helmet numerous cams, things like that. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair though, like later on, they're kind of like, as they're like creating this dictionary of words, they talk about how she's like translated some of it, but they found out that she mistranslated some of it. So I think to some like defense here, like I'm not trying to defend the whole show or anything like that. Like they did show her at least knowing some things, right?
But again, too, the whole idea of, I forget what she called the needler, right? Whatever the Covenant word is,
like the or something like that. Yeah, I don't remember.
Kai and the Spartans don't know the Covenant language. How would she know? Like, oh, when they say or whatever, it sounded a little Klingon. Whenever she said it, whatever she said, like, how does she know that? That's Covenant. Why, when you turn one on the Covenant, if they go or whatever, right? They're like, oh, they must be saying. Needler. Oh, that's Needler. No, I don't know. For me, it'd be like the aliens like yelling one last thing before they die. Like "F you, Spartan" or "Demon" or whatever. I
think that's what they said, right? They said like they think it's the word for needler, or it could be like like a cry for help or something like that. They're kind of like, it could be needler. It could be like, please don't kill me. And then Kai makes a joke about grunts begging for their life or something like that, and how sad and pathetic it is or whatever, which is kind of funny.
They do specify that they only think that this is the case.
And so they spend the rest of the episode essentially helping Miranda do her homework, and they help her do her homework by translating a bunch of Sangheili words that they intercepted from the Gladius's transmission to a different that Covenant ship after, Maquis basically annihilated the ship and started transmitting things. So they
But
they helped her out there.
the end here kind of goes back into what you were saying a few minutes ago too, is the whole episode. Technically, this point is the end of the episode, and we get the kind of weird flashes. This is, I think, the second episode they've done this in a row where somebody's talking over and there's a lot of flashes of things happening between Kwan, Soren,
Mm-hmm.
Chief, Halsey, blah blah blah. But like, we have this whole thing where Miranda just talks about, again, basically how evil Halsey is and how she doesn't like, you know, messy and erratic, unpredictable people, and that
Right.
she just, doesn't, again, kind of goes back to your point, like, oh, she's talking shit about her, but then earlier she was, well, I didn't get to spend a lot of time with mommy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think that's important, right? Like I'm okay with letting that go because I don't know how else they would say it. It's not like one of the Spartans is going to be like, Halsey doesn't like glitches, they need to get that in there because that builds that's another tension builder, right? Because not only is Kai a quote unquote glitch, like we know that Master Chief is unpredictable and is a glitch by that definition, and so that builds tension, and we're like, oh, what's going to happen with Master Chief? Like,
Yeah.
so I think they need it, although I agree with you, like delivery probably could have been chosen better, but unfortunately with the way that's there, like I think it would have been worse if like Silver Team says it,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I guess they're trying to just keep building tension between everybody else and Dr. Halsey, because now, what is going to happen between Master Chief and Dr. Halsey? We were, talking about that plot point earlier, and it's kind of mysterious on if, is Master Chief going to try and, choke her out, or is like, is she going to run the kill switch on Master Chief? I mean, it doesn't seem like she would want to do that, but things are behaving not as Halsey has planned. But for some reason, I feel like, and this is me going off of the stuff that I know that happens in the Halo timeline based off of the games, she's not going to do anything. Nothing's going to happen of this. Like, they're building all this drama and tension, and if they continue down the path that I think they're going to continue down, it doesn't lead anywhere.
See, this could be where it goes into my kind of prediction of they're building all this tension with everybody in Halsey, where at some point John's going to just kind of make a decision, and they're just, he's not going to be working with them, which could potentially push Cortana to figure out which side she's on, which maybe is how Cortana and John end up becoming best friends, right? But it's just, I don't know. I'm not liking where it's going with all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe
it's just a
she's
lot of
gonna make an
drama.
example out of Kai.
And I mean, yeah, like it's really interesting that they would go this route for a Halo TV show, because again, like I'm gonna stick to my point, is that this feels like this is like, yeah, like a season 2 kind of a thing. Like, we've wrapped up something really, really huge. We got to see how badass Master Chief was, all that good stuff. But now we're kind of inserting in all this drama and figuring out what's happening in the inner turmoil of the UNSC. But opening with this seems really weird. It just seems really weird to not give people action, because that's kind of what we're here for. Like, what a lot of us were expecting going into the show was, well, Halo is an action-heavy franchise, both book and in games. There's a lot of action that happens.
Mm-hmm.
We were kind of expecting that. And we're going into episode 5, and we've only had so far about 6-ish minutes of Spartans doing things.
Yeah.
Like, action-packed doing things.
No, just 2 scenes of action, period. You've got the scene in the pilot episode, right?
Yep.
And then you've got the Covenant scene. Outside of that, there really isn't a whole lot of action.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, I guess you could say the Kwan Ha stuff technically has action in it too, because there's people dying in that. But
yeah.
Okay, so 3 scenes.
All right. Do we want to go into the Kwan Ha stuff really quick then?
One last thing here, real quick. I wouldn't mind if there was very little action, if they were kind of setting a starting point, a base for, again, I keep going back to this, is to bring a broader audience in, right? Bring more people in. They're like, if they kind of started with, again, maybe go far back to First Contact with the Covenant. It could be the start of the Spartan program, maybe a little bit more of the start of Halsey building Cortana and knowing a little bit more about not using human flash clones for set a base so people understand this a little bit more, and it's not doesn't feel like a third season, right?
Right.
So
And one reason I think that this is really getting hit hard is because of the Kwan Ha stuff. I think
yeah.
this show, not to just like dump on it just for jokes or anything like that, but I really do honestly feel like the Kwan Ha stuff is taking up way too much time when they could be fleshing out a lot more with the stuff that we actually care about.
It's
Like they put
really dragging the show down.
it is.
I mean, to add to that, right? Like, if they want to go all crazy with all these like UNSC problems, with all these Halsey problems, like take the Kwan Ha stuff out and just build more on those tensions, right?
Right. And right now we haven't really seen how this Kwan Ha stuff is supposed to tie into Master Chief's story other than how the first 2 episodes they were intertwined for like that brief period of time.
I think we get a little bit towards the end of her story here with in this episode, but let's get started.
Oh yeah,
let's get to the start of it.
Hopefully, we'll have to see because yeah. So opening up with the Kwan Ha stuff, she arrives at Madrigal with Soren. They land his ship outside of town, and Kwan Ha is looking for any of the resistance leaders, and she happens upon a young man in a market, and that young man in the market recognizes her. Even though that she's been, of course, hiding herself by throwing the hood up. Once you have the hood up, nobody recognizes you.
Yeah.
It's like the glasses to Superman, really.
It is.
Also, like this, it makes no sense. You're bringing this, beefy. Granted, he's not in Spartan, so maybe he does, isn't as eye catching as.
I mean, he is in Spartan armor. He just not.
It's just I noticed this episode. It's just a chest piece. That's nothing else. But what I'm saying is, like, he doesn't have the helmet, the full armor. He doesn't look like Master Chief,
He just looks like a big dude.
But he's this beefy dude that's out of place, and in a place like this that's been kind of torn up with everything going on with Kwan Ha's dad getting killed and all the power shifting to Venture, and there's probably a lot of suspicion and backstabbing, which we do see in this episode. It's just like, yeah, it just makes no sense how they could just walk in there, but he's a pirate, so he knows how to avoid detection.
Exactly. Well, I mean, okay. So the funny thing about this part is that, like, Kwan Ha has got the best timing in the entire galaxy.
Yeah.
She shows up and talks to this young man in the market. And he basically is like, oh, yeah, cool. I'm glad you're here. So we're going to be having a memorial service for your dad, actually, like this afternoon. You should go. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like all the resistance leaders are going to be there. Yay. Like, oh, okay. So she shows up at her dad's, memorial service, and she's talking with, I think it's her aunt, who is supposedly...
No, it's her. It's a general of her dad's.
Oh, okay.
Like her dad's most trusted friend and highest general or something like that.
Frail old lady that's one of the top generals.
It's one of the top generals, and she basically says that, the resistance is basically done. And, everyone has either been captured or killed, and Kwan starts to have this sneaking suspicion that she's actually kind of behind it. Yeah, that she was paid off by Vishnu and to basically weed out all of the insurrectionists, basically. Which is great, because right after they have that conversation, all of the Vishnu's goons show up and they start beating people with cattle prods.
Yeah. Which, yeah. I put it in the notes here, but I did want to bring this up. Granted, we don't know who these generals are and people leading this so-called rebellion or whatever, but like, we questioned this before. Kwan was watching a bunch of times people get murdered that you would assume if Venture is out in the street shooting people, it's probably people high up in this rebellion that she all of a sudden knows sprung up after her dad died and Venture took his place.
Mm-hmm.
But, any smart person would maybe assume that a lot of those people are dead, or maybe who she saw was getting shot were some of these captured generals. Like maybe I'm going to assume that her little drone footage she was watching was like maybe like a news, Chopper 1, Channel 1, news, watching this happen, they might be reporting, well, Venture captured rebel leaders and he's murdering them in this. Like, it just again made no sense to me. Like that she's just like, what? There's no rebellion and everybody's dead.
Well,
Really?
no, I thought it was more of like, so when we saw that, right? Like that's a small subset. There was like maybe 10 people there that he executed, right? So he was clearly like sending a message and stuff like that. So like I can see it being conceivable if this world is truly as big as they're trying to make it. Like you can't tell this by episode 1, right? Because episode 1 it's a bunch of like it's a handful of people in some hold somewhere. But if this resistance is as big as they say it is, right? You can conceivably think that as long as like the most trusted general is there, that you can always just keep making rebels. You can keep making more insurrectionists, doing more uprisings. There's plenty, and I mean, you look at the size of the funeral too. Like that's not exactly like small when you think of like compare that to like the amount of people that were in that little compound when the elites came. Like if you can get that much in that magical city, like how many other cities are there around magical or around the area, that could also be against the UNSC. So yeah. I mean, I think that's still okay.
Yeah, and I think that
like,
that's probably saying, that I mean, we already kind of can. I think we can see where this plot is going. Is that she's going to basically start an uprising, and they're going to take down Vishnu, and this whole plot is going to have, basically, in my opinion, I don't believe that this is going to have any bearing on Master Chief's storyline. Yeah. It is literally just a side plot.
Well, it just goes into another that whole insurrectionists fighting rebels now. Like I don't know. It just
I mean, I could see it over like crossing over if they actually do make the Covenant, if they actually make them scary, right? And then now all of a sudden there's this internal civil war and we're trying to fight off the aliens. Like,
why didn't they glass the planet in the first episode? Then we wouldn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, we wouldn't have to care about this stupid shit.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, so later in the episode,
we would be going to another planet where there's another resistance, so Kwan Ha can magically meet up with her aunt. Don't worry, she's safe on this other planet.
So speaking of which, moving this a little forward, Soren, we find out that Soren's ship got dismantled and taken. So now he's shipless, and so he's got to make sure he gets that money out of Kwan and her deep pockets, apparently. So he's basically telling Kwan, "You're going to give me a ship."
He's such a great pilot.
Yes.
Or pirate, not pilot.
Yeah, he's such he got stolen from. That's how good of a pirate he is.
It's like it's been so long. What's that scene in Pirates of the Caribbean where, Jack Sparrow gets off the boat and but you've heard of me. Like that's like
right.
He's not a good pirate, but you heard of me.
You have heard of me. Yeah. So
the other thing though is like if she's gonna give Soren a ship, right? Like how is she supposed to do so? Because she said that her aunt is the one that has all this money. Well, Soren comes in after they murder her aunt. Like, how is she supposed to get money? Like, forget the fact that her aunt said the money's dried up. We can believe that Soren wasn't there to hear that, right?
Yeah.
Right? But like, how does he expect her to come up with this?
Yeah. Well, like I guess before we dive into that question, let's just catch up a little bit here. So Kwan Ha does eventually meet up with her aunt, and her aunt explains that, while I guess her dad was leading this rebellion, he, I guess, saw some religious folks and they taught him the ways of something. And now he's thinking that like the Illuminati are out there and that he's become some warrior of the Illuminati or
come on.
He's basically part of a secret society or something like that. And that I don't know if she said that there was any money left, but like, yeah, basically
she said it's all dried up in the resistance.
Yeah. She was basically gone. Yeah.
Yep, and so she basically paints her dad out to be some kind of like warrior of some religion of some kind, and it was very, very vague, and I don't honestly remember much about it if I'm being honest.
Well, I think this is where we get the teaser that I am probably going to hate later in the season, is that there's something special about the Ha family, which means since basically all the Ha's are dead, they.
Okay.
That Kwan is going to be some sort of like chosen one, and that's gonna be her tie to Chief later because Chief's a blessed one, but they're gonna need this chosen one also as well to, I don't know,
They're gonna need the
find the ring,
gatekeeper.
activate the ring. I don't something like it's gonna be what it's probably gonna be, because they're all gonna have plot armor to stick around for a while. Is John Maquis and Kwan are gonna be like the the Holy Trinity to light the halo or something. Do something with the halo or find, I don't know, but yeah, no, I mean, yeah, her mom's just like everything's gone, and again, this Kwan is still just like, no, we're start the rebellion. It just, I don't know. She needs to get it through her head that
The rebellion is kind of toast.
Yeah,
This ain't happening.
Yeah, what needs to go through her head is one shot from Soren's revolver, but
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
and then Kai will maybe be made an example from, and then that'll leave a hole on Silver Team, and Soren can join Silver Team, and then we're back. The gang's back, and we're having a good time.
Soren's not going to join Silver Team, even if there was a hole. Come on.
I know.
Also, just before Kwan, we haven't even gotten to talk about the Easter egg hunt of the Halo series. Now is that just before Kwan is talking to her aunt, we get to see Vishnu's butt. We get more ass in Halo.
Yeah, we get to watch him stand outside of a giant bathtub, light a cigar, walk halfway through the bathtub, put the cigar out in the bathtub, walk out of the bathtub.
Yep.
What a great scene.
Yeah.
And
he's talking he's talking with an assassin this entire time too. So like, yeah, it's not just him walking into a bathtub, but he's talking with some assassin lady, and he's telling her that, yeah, if this Kwan Ha person is a threat, yada yada yada, go kill her. Okay, big deal. Like, and then that's why the aunt ends up dying, is because the assassin is going after Kwan and her aunt, kills just necks her with the like a katana or something like that right in front of Kwan, and then she goes after Kwan. Soren blasts her in the shoulder, and nowhere else, and then she just yeets out the window, and then she pieces.
Everything with this Franco character, the assassin, just bugs me. Her introduction. Well, first off, I want to say this. I hope someday I have enough money that I can have a giant bathtub that I can just be butt ass naked in and smoke a cigar and literally sit in, I don't know, some weird little pedestal in the middle of it.
It's got a pedestal in the middle so that you can just chill in your bathtub.
I'll call my friends over and just talk to them from the bathtub.
Man, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to come over for your bathtub talks.
I'll podcast from it.
There you go.
Oh boy,
that sounds great.
So what also bugged me, and I mean, shout out to all the moms out there that do this and are good at it, but like Franco comes in and she's like, well, sorry, I was dealing with my kids. Like, what the hell? Like, she's like all worried about her family, and then she's being sent to go kill people. It seemed off. It seemed weird. I didn't get the point of mentioning her kids or something like that.
Yeah, she goes to her kids' soccer practice. Yeah, and then she's got to assassinate by nighttime.
Yeah, I mean, again, more power if there's any moms out there that actually
that are also assassins.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome.
Power to the people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But this kind of felt a little off. But and then Soren, this trained from 6 years old to be a Spartan, missed. Well, how many? He took like 4 or 5 shots, and
in
he
like
missed
a tiny room.
One.
Hey, to be fair, he never completed his training.
Yeah,
that's why Luke lost to Vader. That's why he missed his 5 shots and only had 1.
He was the Spartan dropout.
He didn't know how to use the wingman.
We can, from the flashback, we could assume they're mid-teens, 15, 16 when he 14, 15, 16 when he escaped, right?
Right.
By then it was around that age, I think, when they had the augmentation. So
I was gonna say it was because he removed the pellet. He can't focus anymore.
Yeah, there you go.
Right?
He's distracted by emotions and human things.
Yeah.
But it's just, again, but it was it was a plot armor moment because they have something for Franco to do later. So
yeah,
again, it's just little things like that bug me,
Yep. All right. Well, I think that basically wraps the episode too. We finally got through the Kwan plot, which, like I said, I'm just gonna say it right now. I feel like this is going nowhere, and I need to see something happen out of this that ties it back into Master Chief's stuff, because I feel like they're just going full on Game of Thrones right now, where they're just like, all right, well, this thing is happening on the complete other end of the world and has nothing to do with what's going on this end of the universe, you know?
Mm-hmm. I after the mention of Kwan's dad going to visit, the Fremen in the desert and stuff,
Right,
it was
they
just,
basically just ripped off Dune. I forgot about that. Yeah.
it was just, yeah, I just have this bad feeling that again, this also goes from kind of this bad feeling comes from the fact that I don't remember if it was the director or if it was like Kiki Wolfkill, somebody was involved in high up in the show, that Kwan's character is important and is going to play a big role in the show.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we get this little, sand messiah, thing happening, I'm just like, shit, it's Kwan. God damn it.
The spice
Honestly,
must
I'm listening
flow,
to you-
Matt.
I'm listening to you like explain all this stuff, and it sounds like a dream somebody had. They're like,
Yeah.
and then I visited the Fremen,
Yep.
and then I visited. It's like, oh my goodness, it sounds like a dream.
It's not the spice, it's the madrigal. The madrigal must flow.
The madrigal must flow.
He who controls the madrigal controls the universe.
No, that's the drugs that they're finding in the first episode. She's
Oh,
got
that's
a
true.
knack
The
for it.
shrooms.
Yeah,
Yeah,
was it? I thought that was called madrigal, which was why the
No,
I don't
I
remember.
think that's
Yeah, I don't
just
know.
the name of the planet.
drug. I don't know, but yeah,
Whatever.
whatever it is.
Yeah. So I mean, like, what did you think about the other two plotline? Like, I mean, Heather, did you find this plotline interesting at all?
This one in particular,
Yeah.
no, but I don't really care about the Kwan Ha stuff.
All
Like,
right. So no.
I'm just kind of snoozing on this one.
True. All right. So yeah, anytime Kwan and the magical plot line is on screen, it's basically a groaner, and yeah, it's just kind of
That's the bathroom break time.
yep. It sucks all the fun out of the room.
We all go to the lobby during
the-
that time.
Yep.
The hard thing was, at least, well, I guess the last two episodes, the Kwan storyline was almost bearable because of Soren. But what I was saying earlier is I'm starting to not like his character because he's just erratic and
talk.
irrational, and there's no, like, the best thing he did this episode was get that sweet bucket helmet, which I hope we see more of. And we were, a lot of people were disappointed that there was no crossover stuff from Halo TV show into Halo Infinite. I swear to God, if we don't get that bucket helmet as a cosmetic in Halo Infinite, that would make me go back and play and try to get
You want that? You want that bucket?
Bucket
Yeah.
helmet or riot.
Yeah, it is. Oh, it's just like, who made this? Like, who thought this? What the prop maker or whatever costume designer thought this would be great? But
That's what was in the back of the Chevy Tahoe.
That's
but
true.
a lot of
Vishner had
what-
a souped up Tahoe. We got to see the Tahoe return, and it's
Yes.
got space age additions to it, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that they're just trying to own it at this point. They're like,
Yeah.
well, we messed up, so you know what? Might as well just own it.
put it in armor.
Put
But,
it in everything.
But to me, his character was likable. But this one is just his actions are just and his dialogue, and it doesn't match up, and he comes across annoying now to me. So hopefully it gets better because I enjoyed him in episode 2 and 3. So,
Yeah, I hope so too. He was like one of the only characters I actually liked out of this show.
yeah.
But yeah, like I said, it feels like he's kind of all talk, because he was all like threatening Kwan. He's like, if you all don't pay up, I'm gonna kill you. And it's like, okay, well, they're not paying
that's-
up, so
He
That's what I
recognized
mean,
the plot
right?
armor.
yeah.
Like he's letting Kwan to say, okay, we have to just go one more place before you get your money. At what point does he just say, screw it?
Yeah, I'm gonna collect
you're
that
done.
bounty.
Yeah, collect that bounty like he said he was going to.
Right,
Yeah.
he's
The
already
money's
lost.
gone.
So think about it this way, right? He's already lost his ship. His life has already been in danger, and he's already had to play babysitter to her when he doesn't want to. Like at this point, if I'm a heartless pirate, right? I just turn her into somebody and collect my money.
Yeah, why not?
Because
Why wouldn't
you don't have
he?
any real allegiance to John, even though he
Mhm.
says that's the only reason he's got her hanging around. Like,
Yeah.
there's no allegiance to it. Like he said in that episode.
You brought
we
it
got
up, and-
introduced to him, right? John almost got him killed.
Yeah,
So
you
what does he care?
brought that up in episode 2 that we covered. Was like, what does he
What does he
Soren
owe
owe
John?
to John?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if I'm him, like, even if he's doing it as a favor to John, like, that favor has run out, dude. It's his favorite ship is gone, right? Because he even talks about how he was all angry at her making death threats because she was trying to basically hotwire his favorite ship. So his favorite ship is gone and sold for parts, sent to a chop shop, right?
Mm-hmm.
He has to go save her from somebody who's gonna kill her, and the one person she said had all the money is now dead. And Kwan's like, oh no, we just have to go one more place, and she just keeps saying, oh, we have to go one more place. Like, if I'm a heartless pirate, I just say, nope. Have fun with your bounty hunters. Like you're done.
Good luck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good luck.
I
good
agree.
riddance.
And like I said, this plot isn't really that fun. Like, it's not interesting, and it's not really Halo. Like, this is like the least Halo-y part of Halo.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish that at like every minute that we spend on this ridiculous Kwan plot, I just keep thinking to myself, man, this is like 10 extra minutes that we could have had establishing anything else with Silver Team or Master Chief doing something interesting. Or
Well,
like that
too,
could have been
right?
all this other, like, you could have just cut all of this.
Or we didn't get Maquis. We didn't get that plot. That's
what I'm saying. Like, we could have so much more time to juggle the other plots. Like, you want a Game of Thrones this? Like, look at how many plots you juggle in Game of Thrones. Like, at any given time. Like, they kind of like leave some and then come back to them much later.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, we're not doing that here. We're just trying to juggle everything.
Yeah. And it just feels messy. Like, that's what this episode felt like. It felt like it was kind of messy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, any final thoughts about any of the other parts of the episode? Did you guys like Kai dyeing her hair with gun oil?
That was just goofy, but whatever.
I thought that was goofy, and I was surprised that when she was in the artifact room and the other two are clearly there. Again, another like moment where I would have thought that would have been a red flag moment, where they see her hair's dyed and they're not like, shit. Like, they have zero reaction, and like I would expect them to like want to basically turn her in.
The only
with
person,
the same reason that John turned in Soren,
Yeah. The only person that noticed was Miranda.
Yeah, they didn't seem to care.
Yeah.
It's like, yep, she did things with her hair. That's neat.
Yeah.
My only last comment here on the show is going to go back to Chief. This is Halo now. Watching Chief dig holes with a shovel, not being a badass, he's being all emotional and just overall just stupid. There's nothing interesting going on with him, and he's supposed to be this badass person in this show. I want John Halo, who's not afraid of anything, to go shoot some aliens, right? And we're watching him just dig a shovel, just digging holes in a yard. And I sat watching this episode a second time going, this is Halo. This is the Halo TV show. Really. Watching John, this super badass super soldier, digging holes in a yard to look what we found out were drawings.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Creepy gets the auger too.
Yeah. I mean, you think at this point too, we might have a drone that could just scan the ground and realize there's something that isn't dirt here underneath.
Matt, this is a rogue mission. We can't take any actual tools with us.
We need, and of all the times that like,
there's so much like weird convenience in this show, and there's so much weird like convoluted things that happen in the show to make the plot work. It's so like, the show is such a mess.
But I love it.
Do you?
I mean,
no.
Are you sure? Because I don't really get that vibe from you.
Yeah, you don't seem like much of a Halo fan at all.
I'll start off the rating here. I'm broken record. I'm staying with the 3.
Staying at a 3. Consistent.
Staying with the 3. It's painful sometimes. Like I said, watching Chief dig a hole. Really. I am a little hopeful of seeing the teaser for next episode that hopefully at least Chief's storyline is going to pick up. I'm hoping we're past the emo Chief state, and now he's I say given an anger, right? Go full Sith on this, right? Because hopefully then that means he's going to be the good kind of erratic and not the sad, poor me, let me go listen to music,
Yeah, you want him to You want the Doom music to kick on and then
Yeah.
just like go ape shit on a bunch
Yeah.
of elites. Yeah.
So I'm hoping now that we found the artifact and we're done with this stupid drawings bullshit, that whatever happens, he's gonna, whether he's again just anger or he just kind of slips back into being, tactical military dude, bro. Like, I hope we're just gonna this. Hopefully, his plot moving forward is now going to be a little bit more interesting.
Yeah.
So we'll see this week when the new episode comes out. But
We'll have to see. All
yeah.
right. That's a 3 from Matt. What about you, Heather?
I don't know, like, maybe I'm gonna surprise you a little bit, but I actually kind of was digging on this episode. Like, I think there's a lot of, like, silly things, there's a lot of convenient stuff, but at this point, I'm kind of just start taking this from as, like, I don't know him as Master Chief, it's just kind of a sci-fi movie, and aside from the Kwan Ha thing kind of just dragging things down, I thought this was actually kind of cool. I mean, I'm with you, like, I'm a little sad that Master Chief doesn't do anything awesome. I'm hoping that, like, if he does start doing awesome things, I think maybe we can get higher than like a 6 or 7 max. But like, if they got rid of Kwan Ha and they actually made Master Chief like Master Chief in the game, oh hell yeah, this thing is gonna be like an 8-9, I think. But like,
Yeah. I mean, if you had some action scenes with Master Chief and Cortana in his head, like telling him to do stuff like, Chief, up there, Covenant battleship in our sector, or something like that, and then he's just like, oh shit, it's Halo.
Yeah. But I mean, in general, like, I actually, like, I was okay with like the whole like Master Chief plot. Like, yeah, I get it's a little campy. This whole thing is campy, but I mean, overall, I was digging on it. I was
So
like,
what's your score?
Okay. I said it was a 5-6.
Which one, 5 or 6?
A 5.6.
I'm not going to dignify that with a response. I've been able to give between the two the entire time, so I'm going to stick with that.
All right, fine. All right. Well, I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to go with a 4, mainly because like way too much Kwan in this episode, and Chief still isn't doing anything that interesting, and yeah, it's coming clear to me that this is what the Halo TV show is that it's kind of just mediocre, really slow, painful sci-fi. Like, just really mediocre sci-fi. It's like they're ripping off like almost everything sci-fi that they can think of between like Dune. I've heard The Expanse is being used in here because that's like what like the inspiration for the Rubble was, like, just basically ripped off from the Expanse, and there's a couple of other sci-fi TV and movies and books that they just keep referencing, and it's just a crappy version of all of those, basically bad sci-fi. It's crappy sci-fi. So I'm gonna give it a 4 because I was kind of bored, honestly, during this episode. I thought that this episode was kind of boring. I thought Kai being kind of goofy is a little bit more fun because she got a little bit like finally brings a little bit of levity to this show, so that like not everybody is just fucking mad and depressing and drama and all that. She was like, oh, this is fun. Like, this is a needler, and it's fun listening to grunts beg for their life, and then you blast them into a pink mist, and it's like, all right, that's kind of like that.
Yeah, I thought that was weird. I really thought it was weird. It felt out of place to me. Like, that's
like I said,
that's why I
liked
said
it
like
a
a 5 on this, is because like there's moments like that where it's like weird. Where I thought, like, I feel like Kai is just kind of a, like, she's the piece that doesn't quite fit right, but we've pounded into the puzzle. Where, like, Kwan Ha is just like a piece to a different puzzle that we're just shoving in there.
Yeah.
Like, like, I thought like the majority of the plots were fine, but I thought it was cool and all, but it just seems kind of weird.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I'm giving
opinion.
it. That's why it made it all the way up to a 4. Is because in general, I thought that this episode was pretty boring. It's not really fun watching Master Chief dig holes. I did like the recreation of his house and Cortana being in his head and all that. So I thought that was, like I said, that's the part that I would wish that we would focus entirely, like most of the show on, rather than jumping between all 3 of these different. Well, I guess you could say 4. All 4 of these different like weird subplots of Kai finding herself, and Kwan trying to build a resistance, and Maki trying to basically play cat and mouse with Master Chief, and
Dude,
Master
I'm
Chief.
digging on those flashbacks though.
No, I think the flashbacks are great. I love all the stuff that that's what I wish that they would have focused on. Instead of the Kwan Ha stuff, you could have been giving me flashbacks of like the Spartans in training and all that. And
Yeah, Chief Mendez.
yeah,
Yeah.
you could have seen so much sweet lore from the books. Like if you would have just not involved that, and it would have fleshed out Master Chief even more as being like a leader, and why everybody thinks that he's the Master Chief.
Well,
that's, you could see that.
He's only the Master Chief because he's special. That's
He's
the only
special.
reason we know he's the Master Chief. But
Yeah, he's special
I
because the
think
show says he is.
Yeah, I think as the season goes on, I'll get more and more numb to it, and I think as long as Chief's story starts picking up, I think I'll assuming it does. Hopefully, it does. I think I'll start liking it a little bit more. Right? It's just there's just too much stuff. I'm still trying to come to terms with the fact that this isn't.
It's barely Halo.
It's barely Halo.
Yeah.
I think, and you've said this now, and I think it's our third week mention it. I don't think we're going to get Halo this season, but I was thinking today, like that. Once we get to Halo, that could be potentially where the series starts redeeming itself a little bit more, depending obviously how they handle it. But because then we'll start getting back into this is Halo, right?
I just thought of something.
Oh, what?
How typical of 343. The Halo TV show sucks when it releases, but give it 4 or 5 years and it's going to be good.
Yikes.
That is, yeah. But I mean, that's if we get more John, and I come to more and more come to terms that this is just not a great ripoff of Halo. And then if they ever get to this Halo, the actual Halo, this could be a tolerable show.
Yeah, I said, I don't think that they're actually going to arrive at Halo until the very end of episode 9, and then we'll be able to actually see something cool happen. Maybe we'll get to see Reach getting glass. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
But as far as we know, the Covenant don't really pose a threat to anybody because they just kind of exist.
Yeah, they're just there. Whatever.
All right.
Big aliens.
Any final comments?
I'm good.
All right, cool. I'm good. All right. Well, we're going to close it out there. Thank you all for listening to this week's episode of the Campfire Gaming Podcast reviews Halo, the TV series. We appreciate you sticking around with us for all of our rants and our ravings. Be sure to like and subscribe if you're coming to us from YouTube. We'd love to hear your feedback, so drop us a comment. If you'd like to get even more engaged with us, go to our website, campfiregamingpodcast.com. There you can find links to our Discord. You can chat with us there, or you could chat with us via Twitter at CampGamePod. Regardless, we'd love to hear from you, get your thoughts and opinions about what we think about the show. Maybe bounce some ideas. Maybe there's some stuff that we haven't seen, or maybe there's some stuff that we're not referencing that you'd like to hear more about. So we love the feedback. So with that said, we're going to see you guys next week, and we'll stick around the campfire. I kind of botched the exit, but whatever.
It's all good.
You can reread it again if you want to.
Take 2.
Nope, that's the end of the episode.